okay? So it's wild. There's a text that reads, it's a fantastic, gorgeous text that reads from a 450-word document. And the text reads, Sofan na'utz b'tchilatan, utchilatan na'utz b'sofan. Right? Which means the end of the conversation is in the beginning, and the beginning of the conversation is in the end. And that, there's more scholarship written on that book called the Book of Creation, right, about the time of Jesus, the first Hebrew mystical text we have, right? The key word in the book is, ready? It's 455 words, the whole book. I look at that, I say, what the fuck am I thinking? Right, 455 words. It's made it through history. Nice, right? Great library, one book, right? 450, not bad, right? So that if you want to feel the visceral experience of jealousy in my body, there it is. How did they do that? 455 words. That book changed history. That book defined the Renaissance in many important ways. Right, this Book of Creation, 455 words. The key word in the book is sipur, which means story, and sefer, which means a book. So you talk about being written in the book of life. When Leonard Cohen talks about the book of life, and he's talking about this book, which talks about sefer, book, and sipur, story. And what it says about story is, and about any conversation it's talking about, the beginning of a conversation is in the end, and the end is in the beginning. And that's how you know it's a real conversation. And what does it mean? It's a strange text. So I thought about it for a couple of decades, like, really? Is that interesting? Then I was, oh, what it means is, right, but you get the after a couple of decades. And as soon as I got it, I checked literally a couple thousand years of the way the best masters cited the text, and no one tells you what it means, because that's how a code works. And I realized, they all read it that way. Okay, so listen to this. What it means is there's a plot line to the story, right? What it means is the story has a plot line. It's a story. It means it's saying reality is a story, and the end is in the beginning, and the beginning is in the end, and yet it's fully free along the way. That's the paradox, okay? So stay, if you're a good evolutionary thinker, think about how dramatic that is. In other words, the world is, from an evolutionary perspective, right, contingent, lots of surprises, and yet not random, right? And yet there's a thread. There's a plot line. So that's hard to figure out in the evolutionary thinkers because the model is insufficient. In other words, I'll give you an example. So let's say we do Holy of Holies. This is an example. So I'll mention one person, right, who I got a text from this great lady in New York who's a dear friend of many of ours, right, Kathy Brownback. Was a key figure in education in America, and we've been doing Holy of Holies once a week since about 2009, right? And so I've never in my life ever prepared for a Holy of Holies with Kathy Brownback. And Kathy wanted to be here this summer, so at least, Kathy, we're talking about you, okay? And she's a brilliant educator. I mean, she turned down the job as the headmaster of Exeter, but she was the dean, which is kind of the premier education institution essentially in America. It's the ultimate private school, essentially, in the world, right? You know, Mark Zuckerberg's home. And so we do Holy of Holies, and never, ever prepared 1 second for Holy of Holies with Kathy Brownback, ever. And yet, there's a rhyme and a reason and a thread and a fabric and a recognizable conversation. And you would think that we must have designed this pattern. This must be designed. Because this couldn't be, right? It's so intimately clear, and the designs and the threads, right, come back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And, right, and we just celebrated, right, Kathy's 70th birthday. It's like, wow, look at all these threads, and perfectly designed. But we didn't design any of it. So why is it designed? And when you look at it, it's very obviously, and it's just notes from last, right? It's very obviously designed. But yet it's not. So how can it look like it's completely designed, but it's not? Yet that's actually the problem today in evolution, right? How does it look completely designed, but it's not designed? Mark, you hear the problem? It's completely designed. Well, because there's a plot line. In other words, we have an intention, and our intention is we're going to follow a certain plot line, and there's certain first principles and first values, and they're going to organize the story. So we're free. When I meet and talk to Kathy, we're completely free. We can talk about anything we want. But we're within a storyline, right? So we don't have to prepare, and yet when you read the transcripts of 12 years, you see elegant design, right, that a Christian intelligent design person would say, this must be, right, God must be making each conversation directly happen. But actually, the God is living in the inherent living divine first values and principles that are organizing the whole system. You get that? It's wild. So our topic is seduction. And our topic is seduction not because I decided, right, when we designed this conversation, because the Dharma's always right here. Okay, we'll be really clever, won't it? We'll have seduction at the beginning of the week. We'll have seduction at the end of the week, and we'll have this bookends. No, not at all. That's just how it organized itself. Right? That's just what was, all of the pieces fit together that way because we have this commitment together. So if I want my life to design, right, I design my life not by necessarily hiring a coach who kind of steps into your separate self and tells you, here's a bunch of coaching tips. Now, you want to hire a coach that will actually work with you on actually accessing first principles and first values that will actually begin to, right, create a set of plot lines. Right? So you want to hire a coaching system or a consulting system that actually organizes, identifies not your corporate values that you chose. That's different. Company values. It's not that exactly. It's what are the values that you hold, that you'd be willing to die for, right? That you know to be true anthropologically. And what are those values are the plot lines of your life, and that then designs life, right? So the entire contradiction, and again, will resist the unholy seduction to now go down a rabbit hole of science and show what this solves. But the entire contradiction between design and randomness is actually inaccurate. It's actually contingency, which means radical surprise, lives in the context of a non-random universe, and the non-random universe allows for complete freedom. Isn't that wild? Right? And of course we're going to do real content the last day. Of course we are. Of course we are. Right? Right? So wow. We just solved a major problem in evolution, which is the relationship between randomness and contingency. And when I tried to think about it, I thought about the math. I read Kaufman's stuff. I thought about it logically. But I was only able to work it out when I thought about doing sessions with Kathy. I said, oh, isn't that interesting? Right? That's how you think about things, right? It's always right there. It's not there. It's not there. It's like, oh, right, wow. And it was Kathy's 70th birthday. I said, wow. And I started looking back, and I said, wow, these are perfectly designed sessions. Like, oh my God, we must have spent all week for each one, and they all fit together perfectly, right? Well, there's a God external, right, to Marc and Kathy's sessions, who's obviously writing the script. Well, no, actually. It didn't work that way. But how could it be so perfectly designed? There's inherent first principles and first values that are the plot lines that manifest as new elegant order, we call it in physics. Wow. Okay?